Hi empaths, welcome back to my channel and back to Journey Through the Tarot. This week we're sharing our experiences with the Five of Wands. Interesting week. And then introducing and ushering in a week with the Six of Wands. It'll be a nice change. This journey is inspired by Dirty and Divine, a transformative journey through tarot by Alice B. Grist. She spent a day with each card. We're spending a week. We're getting a lot of our information about the history, symbolism, and divination of the tarot cards by one of my tarot teachers, Robert M. Place, his book, The Tarot History, Symbolism, and Divination. And we're using the Waite-Smith symbolism from the Rider Tarot deck, right? If you need any of those items, they're located in my Amazon store, which I will link in the description of this video. So let's get started with the week. My week with the Five of Wands. And if you recall, the Five of Wands can be about conflict, both internally and externally, walking through some discomfort in order to grow, right? So getting out of our comfort zone. It can be a battle, right? Feeling some combative energy. And I have to say, I resonate with all of that. Coming out of the Four of Wands week, where I felt this internal state of harmony, right? This harmonious feeling inside. And interesting, the Four of Wands, one of the divinatory meanings could be purchasing a house, or in the future, foreseeing moving into a new home. And one of my close friends purchased her first house, and during this week with the Five of Wands, so that was drawing nearer during the Four of Wands week, and then the Five of Wands week, she was reaching out to me saying there were some issues with some of the documents and things like that, and she was having a bit of a struggle, working through those details, because there was some disorganization with the company she was working with and all of that. So that was interesting. And I told her about this week, and she's like, please get us out of that week. And I was like, well, it's just going to be a week. Like, I told her how I had considered kind of avoiding certain cards, particularly death and things like that. But the reason we're working with them, even the ones that aren't so positive, is to build immunity energetically, right? Particularly for empaths and she's an empath as well, particularly for empaths who are working on strengthening filters. One way to do that is doing this work with archetypes. So we're working with the Five of Wands as an archetype, this energy of conflict, which can lead to conflict resolution, right? Getting out of your comfort zone. Well, that's required for growth. So it's part of the process, right? It's part of the journey, the fool's journey. So we don't want to decide, after we go through the journey, right? The reason we're going through it is just to experience each card and see and build immunity and deepen our understanding as readers and things like that. And for self-inquiry. And apart from that, we can then choose, right, a card or a few cards together to illustrate our process and to tune into those for a time, right, depending on what we're working through. So I think it can be helpful, and how the cards speak to us personally. So it can be a change or a challenge, right, the Five of Wands. So interesting, my friend went through that. Also, at the beginning of the week, I had a former client and friend reach out to me, inquiring about a session, because I had appeared to him in a dream. And he said he woke up thinking, book with Rachel, because she'll have answers to what's happening. And it's very interesting. During the week leading up to our session, I started having this feeling inside of this kind of screaming internally, this frustration, this burning feeling. And remember, the wands are fire. They represent the element of fire. So there was this discomfort of fire, and fire can be about purification. So I assumed there was this purification happening, and sometimes you have to walk through that, right? And when I got on the phone with him and we started talking about what was happening, he started describing that feeling. And I often forget that I'm an empath. I know, how can you forget? But sometimes I do not consider that the feelings I'm experiencing aren't from me. And sometimes I'm given a heads up so that I have an understanding of how to work with somebody based on how I came through it, right? How I got through it. So I'm never surprised. I'm never surprised, but I often in the moment don't consider it. So that was interesting. And in that session, we worked on compassion, right? For parts and self-trust, right? Developing a stronger sense of self-trust. And because he was following his guidance and it was right on point with what was needed and what was happening. And so we left it with, I hope this helps you see that you can trust yourself, that you're being guided. And when you follow through with that guidance, you're doing the right thing. So I hope that gives you more confidence and a deeper understanding of yourself, and that it deepens your sense of trust in yourself, because you were so on point with everything, guided in his dreams and everything. And there was a lot of water in his dreams, and that could be medicine for fire. So interesting how my journey influences him and his experiences were influencing me. And I also got outside today, and because another medicine for fire can also be air. And for me, that's really therapeutic. So I got out in the cool breeze and it was just very therapeutic for me. Another thing that happened this week is I was invited to be on a podcast called Enlightened Conversations, which you may have seen on my Instagram feed if you're following me there, urban_empath, or on Facebook. And I'll link that in the description of this video. It was a great conversation. It was just a lot of last minute stuff where the person interviewing me is very ambitious and scheduling a lot of conversations. And I actually didn't know it was live until the night before. I didn't realize that. And so he sent me a link to invite people and for them to register the night before. So I didn't get a chance to send it to anybody. And, and so that I felt a lot of conflict around that, in that I felt like I could have, if I had been given a heads up, I could have had more people there listening and maybe had more questions. But either way, it turned out very good and the conversation went well. And it was a big part of the conversation was, beforehand, I had set the intention or prayed that guidance would flow through me, that, it would be helpful for both of us. We'd share information, that the most pertinent information that was priority to be shared would come through and all of that. And so he confirmed, the host of this podcast confirmed that a lot of the information that I was sharing were answers to questions he had asked within a few hours of us, starting the podcast. So that was really confirming for me. that I'm co-creating and, it's all working out. And it was also a big part of it was also affirming for him that some of his actions that he felt maybe uncertain about how they were the right choice, even though it might have been counterintuitive or out of his comfort zone, helping him see that he was guided to. And that's what it's all about, right? Self-leadership leads to connecting other people with their self too, right? With their self with a capital S, so that they can be self-led as well. The part of us that is connected, right? The true self. So that was really affirming. I had asked a couple people to show up and support me. And it was, like I said, it was last minute. So it was very challenging to give people a heads up. One friend did say they would be there, and didn't end up coming, didn't end up logging on. And at first I felt really hurt. I was like, it caused some pain for me because I felt like I had been so present for so many people, and I just wondered why that couldn't exist for me and why people couldn't show up for me. And one friend was really understanding why it hurt me. And she was like, you've really been there for me. I'm really sorry. I didn't even realize it was that day. And I was like, I know, I wasn't really given that much notice to really let people know. And so it was just very interesting that I went through some really frustrating emotions around that. And, if you use your emotions as guidance, you let them kind of tell you what it is that you really want or need. So I realized I really do want support. I really do want to surround myself with people that prioritize me too. And if I'm not being prioritized, then I need to reprioritize who I'm prioritizing, right? And create some distance or boundaries around that. So, yeah, that was interesting. That created some intense emotions for me. And I worked through it and just realized I needed to change my expectations. And that means create distance, I think as empaths, we have to be discerning who we let into our inner circle. And because we're very sensitive and easily influenced. And I think that I'm definitely restructuring. Like I said, there's purification happening internally. Another big thing that happened this week was I let go of my healing room. I moved out my table and all of my things out of the physical space I had for my healing work, and turned in the keys, and that's officially ended. So that actually feels like, I know that sounds like a negative, but it feels like progress. It feels like expansion, because when I first made that arrangement or made that agreement, I was in a very different place in my life. I had recently moved back to my hometown from New York City, and I was just in a depression over that, and detoxing from the city and purifying. And it's interesting that I'm coming back around to the purification, but it's at a different level, a different vantage point. And I can see that this no longer resonates. And I was able to leave it with gratitude, for what it represented and how it served me, and the kindness I was shown from the main leaseholder, right, who made an arrangement that was really beneficial for me, right, out of the kindness of his heart. The other practitioners I met and connected with, and that now things are shifting for me in my practice, in my business. Many things are remote. And I just brought this up in a live I did with my podcast co-host, the Rant podcast. We did a live on Instagram about the podcast and how it sort of seems off topic for my brand, right? But we met at Musical Theater Conservatory, my co-host and I, Leah. And so when we were doing the live, I was saying that, I can't remember what I was bringing up there. My brain has been doing that a lot lately. Like very quickly or slowly changing topics. But I know it was about coming back around. Oh, I was telling her, I remember now, that before I moved out of New York City, I had done a lot of family constellation work, blind constellation work in part for my business, because I was very afraid it would just fall apart when I left the city. And because I had put a lot of investment into building it there. And I was just very worried that it would kind of disintegrate and disappear. So the work I did there, again, I did some blind constellation work with a facilitator. And what was shown through the results of that work was that I should move in a direction of doing videos and virtual work, that would be more beneficial for my business. And it's just so interesting that an opportunity came up to do in-person work, so I took it. It didn't really flesh out very well, but now, especially right during this time of social distancing and quarantine, that doing the virtual work is really all there is, right, at the moment for what I do. And so it proved to be true. And you don't really know until it's tested, right? It's a theory until it's tested. So yeah, that was very interesting working through that. And also talking about how having a passion project, right? Because this can also be about passion. Brought balance. So getting out of my comfort zone, feeling like I don't have enough time to do everything I need to do to invest in my work. And also I found the tools here to build virtual session work. I attained more skills that lent themselves to that. Anyway, sorry, I was jumping topics. So also the passion project of the Rant podcast, which I'll link in the description if you're interested, gave me more stability and balance internally. I felt like it was easier to invest in my business because I had the vitality and the stability of giving energy to that part of me too. So, yeah, passion projects are worth it. They're worthwhile. They, you know, they yield just as much as you put into them, right? If it's a passion, if it's truly your passion. Let me see if there's anything else that came up. I know that I had a group session for Business Alchemy, the Business Alchemy program I'm in with my mentor, and that group, and it was very enlightening and healing. I felt more harmony in the group. I felt more acceptance, which is interesting because this card's about conflict. But it can also be about people with differing beliefs, opinions, and backgrounds coming together. So that's pretty much where we're all at. And I know that I was having trouble grasping the information, and I asked my mentor to repeat it, and so I felt a little insecure about that, but it's been challenging, kind of concentrating and taking things on. That's another thing I was talking to my client and friend about, that taking on more information right now and like learning things, and it's very challenging because there's so much in there that needs released, that which is a process in and of itself that's burning up in the fire of purification, that kind of taking anything new in is a bit of a struggle right now. But I know that in the group we were talking about absolute light, and then the dark matter, and then also virtual light, and how what they represent in the manifestation process. And I wrote it down, and honestly, I'm still integrating that. I'm still having like, okay, so that's potential manifestation, and I'm still kind of, I'll have to review my notes again before our session tomorrow, but because I'm still grappling with that a little bit. But yeah, and I think we're moving into the 6. It will be about overcoming the confusion, overcoming the conflict, and coming out on top with the changes we're making this week, right? So any scattered or misdirected energies will be redirected. That's another thing that came up in the podcast, right? Was a competitive energy or tension in relationship is sometimes experienced as rejection. But if we can find a way to see how we're being redirected, that usually we're playing small, right? Usually we have to ask, how am I playing small here, right? If we're trying to give all of our wisdom to one person, that can be very intense. So I brought up how it was very enlightened of him, because it was Enlightened Conversations podcast. It was very enlightened of him to redirect and open up the conversation instead of just having it with one friend, because I had to have that learning experience too. So I understood and I saw myself in that. I think that's pretty much it for this week. I think that's about it for the 5 of Wands. So how was your week with the 5 of Wands? Are you experiencing similar things of the inner conflict? And yeah, interesting, right? Changes, coming out of the comfort zone, purification. And then you might experience some overlap here as we move into the 6 of Wands. So let's talk a little bit about the symbolism of the 6 of Wands, according to Robert M. Place. So the 6 of Wands, a man on a white horse wears the victor's wreath and hoists another laurel wreath as a banner at the top of his wand. Other men stand at the side of his path and salute him with their wands. It appears that one man has emerged victorious from the struggle. Now he is enjoying the pleasure of success and the admiration of his peers. This is the growth that the Anima Mundi desired for us. So going through all the conflict of the Five of Wands will create change, right? Coming out of the comfort zone can feel very intense. And it's meant to move us in a different direction, right? To bring change, positive change, victorious change. So coming out on top here in some way. And then for divination, what it might mean if the Six of Wands shows up in a reading: victory, praise, crowned, success, recognition, reward, achievement, forward movement to victory. A laureled horseman bears staff adorned with laurel crown. Footmen with staves are at his side. The card has been so designed that it can cover several significations. On the surface, it is a victor triumphing, but it is also great news, such as might be carried in carried in state by the king's courier. It is expectation crowned with its own desire, the crown of hope. And then Alice B. Grist's intuitive meaning: remember your successes. This card asks you to see how far you have come, further perhaps than many people expected. This card can represent someone who has been dealt a difficult blow or a rocky start, but who carries on regardless. And then the Biddy Tarot, their meaning: success, public recognition, progress, self-confidence. The Six of Wands appears when you have reached an important milestone or achieved a significant goal, and you are confident, self-assured, and successful. You harnessed your strengths and talents to bring about a happy outcome in your endeavors and made it through the chaos of the Five of Wands, minimizing your distractions and focusing on the task at hand. Yes, there were challenges along the way, but you overcame them by concentrating your energies on the one target. The Six of Wands suggests that not only have you achieved your goals, but you are also receiving public acknowledgement for your efforts. You may have recently received an award, acclaim, or recognition from your peers for your work. It may even be just a pat on the back, but this attention is a big boost to your confidence and gives you the strength to continue your endeavors. The Six of Wands also encourages you to put yourself out there and be proud of what you achieved. Shout your successes from the rooftop and set it all out there for others to see and cheer you on. Be open to receiving love and support from your biggest cheerleaders who are energized by seeing you succeed. Now is your time to shine. The Six of Wands is a positive encouragement to believe in who you are and your accomplishments so far. Have faith in what you've done and how others will receive it. Do not let fear or guilt stand in the way of your success. You ought to be proud. Hold your head up high and know you're worthy of admiration. While the Six of Wands marks an important milestone, keep in mind that you're not quite at the finish line just yet. You still have some way to go, and challenges may sit on the path ahead, but take heart knowing you have the support of those around you. They are here to back you 100%. So that's what we're ushering in for this week. That's very hopeful. That's very encouraging. So as we do, let's integrate further our experiences with the Five of Wands so we have a deeper understanding and that we create a stronger filter around that, right? As we embody that experience. And then also call in synchronicities, right? Set intentions, plant seeds for synchronicities of the Six of Wands, what we just learned about the Six of Wands, to come and meet us on the path as well. We'll do so with sound. The frosted crystal singing bowl. So go ahead and close your eyes. Get in touch with your breath. Think about your week with the Five of Wands. And then also for a short time, and then transition into setting intentions for the Six of Wands, the victory card, to show up this week through synchronicities. Beautiful. Coming back to the room. So I'm really excited to see how the Six of Wands shows up this week. It should be much different feeling than the conflict and the change and the discomfort of the Five. So sixes are usually more harmonious. So we'll see. And it's interesting how I was talking about support and that being something I wanted to bring in. So this week, I think we're going to be having a new moon, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe a full moon. I'll have to look into that. And I'll be having another business alchemy meeting this week. So I will have some support there. Really interesting how these cards work out, right? The timing's quite incredible. So I hope you're having a great experience here. Thanks for liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Links will be in the description, right? If you want a personal reading or session, get anything from my Amazon store, just explore there. Check out the Rant podcast, the Enlightened Conversations podcast I just appeared on. That will all be in the description of the video. Thank you so much for all of your support. And I'm wishing you an amazing week with the Six of Wands. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Bye, Empath.